piece of jelly.
So, ladies and gentlemen, before I begin my review today for the Fantastic Four, which I saw last week and I couldn't give you a review because I was waiting for a Rodecaster Pro, or in this case, the Rodecaster Duo, to arrive from Amazon, and it took 5 days before it got here, a pre-owned model, and guess what? When it arrived, no power adapter. God damn it. So it was only until yesterday that my white version turned up. I'm able to now get in there and Anyway, I better not do that in case I suddenly have the sensor police knocking on my door. A lovely segue, folks, into that other thing that's happening in 1984, George Orwell, Britain, because I've got to be careful what I say. If I say anything that incites violence or civil unrest, which there's plenty of, believe you and me, I don't have to do anything to incite that. It's doing it by itself. Yeah, you're going to get those bobbies in blue. I'd rather have the boobies in blue knocking on my door, the knockers knocking the door with the knockers. I love that. It's just such a great image. But anyway, folks, last week I watched the brand new Fantastic Four, which is the fourth iteration because people ignore the one in the middle from 2015 from the guy that gave you Chronicle back in the day. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it feels great to be back. I've just drunk bulletproof coffee for the first time. Not sure if I like it that much, but I'm certainly feeling full down below. But I do miss the usual breakfast that I had that incorporates a bit of sugar. If you end up liking this review, hit the like button below, smash that subscribe button, and trust me when I tell you, I have got a lot to say about this movie. And not all of them are necessarily flattering.
This review of Fantastic Four First Steps will stretch you to your limits. Pretty funny, huh?
Yes, hallelujah, it's the video show. And now, the man the BBC calls...
Jason King on Kung Fu Hot Dog.
Now, I went to a 10:20 a.m. screening of the Fantastic Four on the 24th of July 2025, and it was me and about probably 8 or 10 other people in the audience. It's a morning screening, so I don't expect people to be piling out in the droves to go and see this long-awaited Marvel movie that begins Phase 6. I mean, there's been that many phases already. And look, I'm going to say this from the offset, and I have to compare it to Superman from James Gunn because you have to bring that into the equation, right? And let's face it, folks, the summer movie season is already over. August is just around the corner. Nobody 2, Naked Gun this Friday, which I am watching. Look, the Fantastic Four aesthetically is fantastic. It is so gorgeous. Oh my God. It's like Matt Shakman, the director, plays a lot of Fallout. I'm going to say Fallout 2, maybe 3. That is definitely the inspiration for the way this film actually looks. And also, it's been highlighted that Stanley Kubrick's Space Odyssey 2001 is a major draw. But actually, I do think it's Mad Men that is more of the major influence. If you've never watched that show in HD in 1080p on Netflix or on your Blu-ray, you are missing out. And yes, it's a poor excuse just to admire the curves of Alison Brie and Christina Hendricks, if you get my drift.
Because you're an idiot.
Why didn't you just get John Hamm, Don Draper in the lead role? It would have made people a bit more curious to see that John Hamm in a superhero film. Why? How? Because I think he needs a role like that to make him a bit more commercial. I think he's one of those actors, he kind of stays in a corner somewhere and people don't really know about his phenomenal talent, apart from walking around with Richard Ayoade from the IT crowd in Traveling Man. So the basic story of this, now I think because the comic book of the Fantastic Four was established in 1961, I think this takes place in 1965 because it is 4 years later, and the Fantastic Four are an already established quartet that the New York public just love. It's all very self-contained in New York City, by the way, which I do actually like. So you could probably say this is the multicultural version of Wakanda where they do allow people to know who they are, but whereas Wakanda you can't, because I guess they're black folk who are protective. Not much of a stereotype there, is it? And speaking of stereotypes, folks, before I get back into the very basic plot of this movie, there's a TV anchor called Lynn Nichols, played by an actress called Sarah Niles. Don't know who she is, I don't know who that character is, but every now and then Marvel has to push the message that she's here. She's a black female character and she's in a power of prominent position, right? And I don't understand why I need to be fed that message. You've seen the trailers, you know what happens. Fantastic Four are these great crusaders until Galactus, or rather his servant, the Silver Surfer herself, Shalabal, turned up. Now, I will say, again, she's a cringe character because she's the lover of Silver Surfer. So you could have brought Norn Rad instead of her, or maybe bring both of them in as a compromise, but that's probably a bit too much because if you watch the animated series of the Silver Surfer from 1998, I think it is, Galactus does have the power just to turn, well, he's got limitless power, and I'll come back to that point later. And of course, what happens from here, I would say, and I've seen other people say this, the first 2/3 of the film are pretty good. And you have Reed Richards trying to figure out through mathematical equations who is this or what is this Galactus. There's a good battle in space where our four go up in the Excalibur spaceship, or the Excelsior spaceship, Excelsior, as the great greeting uttered by Stan Lee to confront or to meet Galactus. Galactus, by the way, when he first appears, voiced by The Office's Ralph Ineson, is quite majestic. I got really, I mean, I had geek palpitations all over the place. But here's the problem, and it's going to be a problem I will actually address at the end of this review. While he looks formidable, sounds great, I wanted to see more of him. Galactus feels like an afterthought, like a course correction, and in fact the whole of this movie feels like a big course correction for Marvel and Disney, because it seems Disney blames Marvel for their misgivings and vice versa. It is rather hilarious actually, who's blaming who, or if you're Aretha Franklin, who's zooming who? Anyway, getting back to the plot of this movie, and again, I'm just going through this as quickly as I can. That's it, they're just trying to stop Galactus from not only kidnapping Franklin Richards, who I guess is a mutant, because Sue Storm says towards the end, well, he's not one of us. So is that Marvel's way of saying he's going to be part of the X-Men when he gets older? That's a possibility. If right, Galactus is this all-powerful being with limitless power, that's the second time I've said that already, folks, can traverse galaxies. Why is Reed Richards' idea, sorry, Hispanic Reed Richards, why is his idea of teleporting Earth to another dimension going to stop Galactus from finding them? And by the time he thinks of this harebrained scheme, Galactus is already in NYC. So, and in the third act, when they confront him, Reed Richards has laid out all these traps, if you like. So as soon as Galactus steps into one of these things, he'll be sent back to where he came from. It's so ridiculous, because even if that worked, it would only work for a minute, because you can still come back eventually. It's so bizarre. They don't actually give a reason how Galactus won't reappear again in a sequel, if that happens, right? I mean, maybe it's just me overthinking things, and it's a superhero movie and he shouldn't do that. But honestly, I tell you what, when the screening finished and people were leaving, and look, I saw the two post credits, the one with Doctor Doom shrouded in mystery. We know it's Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, it was a nice moment, directed by the Russo brothers, but it didn't leave any lasting impact on me because you don't see Downey's face. I will say that Fantastic Four First Steps is the second best looking movie after Iron Man in 2008. That's a bit of a high bar if you ask me, maybe a mid bar depending on your train of thought, but honestly, if you think of anything else in between, visually this film is really, It's really a thing on its own, right? Now, when I was leaving the cinema after watching the end credits and everything else, I ended up talking to a member of Cineworld staff because he was asking us, what did you think of the film? And there was another guy standing there who I've now become friends with, which is like the power of geekdom, okay? Which is what I absolutely love. And I was basically saying, look, I don't know if it was just me, but Pedro Pascal's delivery as Reed Richards was very monotone. It was very flat. He wasn't a convincing leader for me, and we all had this collective agreement that that was the case. And people who were leaving before me in the theater were asked a question by the CW member of that particular theater. What did you think? What did you think? And they're all saying, yeah, it was okay. It was good. It was a bit mid. I'm like, wow, holy shit. People were just giving their honest reactions. And here's the thing when I say about course correction. If this were Marvel back in the 2000s, so say, for example, that Marvel reacquired the rights from Fox for the Fantastic Four and released the film in 2010, I don't know who we would have had as the cast members. Obviously not these guys and gals right here, but it does make me wonder if they had all the special effects here and used it back then. We would have been more excited about Galactus, more excited about what could happen for the future of the MCU. And now when it comes to the Thing, it's clobbering time, played by Ebon Moss-Backrack, who, by the way, is in a TV show from FX called The Bear, about an unhinged restaurant owner, which I'm definitely going to watch, was okay as Ben Grimm. Again, I prefer Michael Chiklis's natural gruff American accent, that gravelly voice, which was sorely missing from the character, but he's got a bit of a hinted romance with a character called Rachel Rosman, played by the lovely Natasha Lyonne. And I really liked that. And then suddenly, when you see these two interacting, they move away from that and go back to superheroics. And I hope if they make a sequel to this, that we get more of a budding romance between these two characters, because obviously Alicia Masters was the romance interest for Ben Grimm in the Tim Story films, except she was race swapped. So there you go. They couldn't help themselves back then either, but whatever. She was played by Kerry, whatever her name is. I don't know. I don't really care at this stage. This feels like a course correction that didn't give me any erection, but almost did, but not quite. And I'm not quite sure. No, look, next Christmas, around that time, 2026, it's Avengers Doomsday. We're probably going to get a quick preview of that at the next Super Bowl next year. Possibly. I don't see why that wouldn't happen. But what was the better film between this and Superman's James Gunn? I would say that the Fantastic Four has a better structure to it. It looked better for the most part. I will say all of it. It did look, apart from that last third, that third act. And I've got to say as well, yeah, Mole Man was a very strange interpretation. He was more jokey than he should have been. He's a lot more serious and a lot more of a menace in the comics and the cartoons. And Sue Storm's confrontation with Galactus at the end. Now, the way you can look at it is this. She's a mum who's about to have her child taken away from her. Her power level goes up to a godlike, crazy, I've never seen before, and she's able to knock back Galactus, which I find quite absurd. Her team members do help out a little bit, but not quite that much, and then it basically kills her. And who brings her back to life? Franklin Richards. So I found that a little bit, I'm not sure if I buy into that. Galactus, the man with, wait for it folks, for the third time now, limitless power, could just easily have wiped her and everybody else off the face of the earth. And for some reason, that did not happen. So, Fantastic Four, the first steps. Could it be their last steps? I think we might get another sequel, but don't forget, the next time we see these guys and gals appear on the big screen will be in Avengers Doomsday. So you let me know, folks, if that's worth looking forward to. Are you done? Is superhero fatigue a real thing? Is government censorship a real thing? It certainly is. I can't even sign up with Patreon now because they want visual identification to be given to them. So I guess with Patreon, it's a big no, guys. I'm just going to sit back here and do what I want to do. And on that one, ladies and gentlemen, if you were me and if I were you, you should definitely return for the next video.
Women do not exist to be nice on the eyes for you.
The First Amendment and boobs. So those are the only two things I believe in absolutely in the country.